Lying in the fragrant grass, you hold hands, and you feel the warm sensation of leaving your body. But there is no sense of movement. You are instantly standing with your son in a place you remember well. You are standing on the very same cliff where you first saw the Imperial Roman army. And the Romans have returned. This time, there are at least 10,000 troops spread across the valley, as far as the eye can see.
They look like ants,
says Alexei lightly.
Is this the same army the Vedras warriors fought?
Not exactly, you say. They are from Rome, but these are different men.
How do you know some of them aren't the same?
Alexei asks curiously. That is an excellent question, Alexei, you say, smiling as you look deeply into your son's eyes. Well, after the battle, we formed a group. There are several of us who now keep track of what's going on in Rome.
Is it dangerous?
Asks Alexei wide-eyed. No, sweetheart, you say comfortingly. It's not dangerous at all. We never leave the forest. We go to Rome as our second selves, so we're invisible to the Romans. But we have access to everything from conversations to secret communications.
So how do you know that none of the soldiers down there were here before?
When the army left after the battle, we took turns tracking the commander until he led us back to Rome. We listened to everything he told Caesar. Not one man was willing to go to war. Even the commander himself refused to ever fight again. When the commander left, Caesar ordered every man in the battalion to be sent to a different part of the empire, and each soldier was ordered to never speak of what happened, or else they would be killed. For generations, a diary has been passed down from one Caesar to the next. I saw it myself. In the diary, he warns the future Caesars to leave the Vedras alone. But when Caesar died, his successor saw him as a coward and decided to try again. But to be on the safe side, he doubled the size of his army.
So you knew they were coming?
Says Alexei wide-eyed. Yes, we've known for quite some time, you say warmly. It takes a long time for an army to get here.
So what are we going to do?
Says Alexei enthusiastically.
Are the Vedras warriors riding into battle again? Can I watch?
He adds hopefully. No, something much better than that, you whisper secretively. It's just going to be you and me.
Really?
Says Alexei, hugging you.
So what's the plan?
I'm going to pretend to be your big sister, you say as if you're unwrapping a gigantic present for him. And we're going to deliver a message to the commander-in-chief of the army. Alexei lights up as if every wish he'd ever dreamed had come true in that moment.
Momochka, people always think you're my sister,
he squeals, jumping up and down in delight. I know, you say, smiling. That's what made me think of it.
What about Papa? Will he be back in time to join us?
Alexei asks hopefully. No, darling. Your Papa has been talking to many people, and those people have been helping us spread a special message to all of the Vedras settlements.
I bet Papa will be disappointed he can't join us,
says Alexei glumly. But think how proud he'll be of you, you say, smiling brightly at your son. Alexei beams as he thinks of his father and says,
When do we go?
Let's get our ponies and go now. In the next moment, you're both back in your bodies. Alexei whistles loudly, two distinctly different sounds. In moments, a pony and a small horse come galloping down a path from a meadow bordering the forest. Each pony has a slender rope at the base of its neck, just above their withers. They stand attentively waiting, but still manage to playfully nip each other like a couple of squabbling children whenever possible. Whistling to his pony, a plump, dapple-gray mare appears beneath a tree swishing her tail as Alexi swings down from a branch and lands squarely on her back. You jump nimbly onto your own steed, a bay pony, almost as tall as a horse, with a broad chest and rump and round belly. Except for the fact that your hair is now long and in braids, you could easily pass for a young boy as you did several years earlier. Imitating the dress of Vedra's children, you wear a simple knee-length tunic belted at the waist, and you have flowers woven into your braided hair. You are so petite and small-breasted, you appear to be no more than 11 or 12 years old. Riding a large pony adds to the illusion. In a satchel that lays across your pony's withers, you've packed water, fruit, and a small bottle of oil that has been pressed from pine nuts and herbal flowers. Using nothing more than the string around your pony's necks, you and Alexi ride quietly through the forest until you're just above the Roman camp, but still hidden by dense undergrowth. You leave your ponies and set off at a quick pace on a trail leading downhill to the edge of the meadow, now buried beneath Roman soldiers and equipment. As you walk, you speak quietly to Alexi. All you have to do is keep saying that we're here because our parents are busy at a festival, so we're here with a message for the commander. If anyone tries to talk to me and I have to respond, keep arguing with me. Keep saying that you're the one who's supposed to deliver the message. The less I talk, the better, you add with an inscrutable smile. The Romans won't expect us to know their language.
But, Mama, we can speak and understand any language, can't they?
No, darling.
You mean their parents only speak to them in one language? They don't grow up speaking all different languages the way we do?
Well, most people only speak the language of their own country, and that's why they would never think that we would know a language other than our own. We will understand everything they say, but they'll assume we know nothing, so don't use too many of their words. But when we talk to the commander, here's what you'll say. Our parents are too busy to come, but they want you to know there's a storm coming and you need to go and never come back. Can you remember that? Alexi nods his head vigorously, barely able to contain his enthusiasm for getting to play such a fun game. Before you reach the meadow, a Roman soldier steps out from behind a tree with his sword drawn, yelling, "Halt!" Seeing you're only children, he motions for you to go back up the path. Instead of obeying, Alexi yells loudly, "Message for Commander! We," he adds, putting his palm to his chest, "have message! Commander, message!" Alexi plays his part with such conviction, the soldier finally takes you into the camp. You hold Alexi's hand, and just like siblings, you jostle and push at each other, a pinch here, an elbow there. You make faces at each other, and when one of you gets ahead, the other tries to take the lead without getting into trouble with the guard. One part of you is playing with your son while holding an image of yourself as 11 years old. Another part of you, your second self, is floating above the Roman camp, taking in everything that is being said, done, or thought. You know you're being perceived as a young girl by the soldiers who see you. You can easily read their minds. You also see a dark cloud looming in the distance. In your mind, you focus on the cloud, then imagine it right above the camp, beckoning for it to come closer. Though there isn't even a hint of a breeze, the cloud formation begins to move. If any of the soldiers had been looking up at the sky, they might have wondered why the massive cloud was so dark amidst such a clear blue sky. Finally, you reach the platform outside the commander's tent. From within, you hear the commander bellowing,
"What is it now? I sent orders for the elders to pay tribute. You're telling me they sent a couple of children?"
Standing massive in the doorway of the tent, looming menacingly above you and Alexei, a tall, cloaked man with a stern, ominous face surveys you sphinx-like from beneath dark, jetting brows. Bright sunlight glints harshly on his hawk-nosed face as he hisses to a soldier,
"When they've delivered their message, we'll take them as slaves."
Then, with an angry sweep of his arm, he seizes his cloak and swings it dramatically round as he strides menacingly up to you. With a haughty smirk, he says scornfully,
"Your parents were supposed to come and pay tribute. Tell me, little girl, why have they sent 2 children?"
You stand with your head down and peer up at the man as if you're extremely shy.
Our parents are busy. Wait,
yells Alexei.
I'm supposed to give the message. It's my turn. You got to give the message last time.
Back and forth you squabble as ominous, roiling black clouds draw closer and closer.
Stop!
bellows the commander. Alexei looks questioningly at you as you give him a slight nod.
Our parents are too busy to come,
he says decisively.
They're at a festival, and they want you to know there's a storm coming and you need to go and never come back again.
In that moment, several things happen. You pull a bottle of oil out of your pocket and pour it on Alexei's head and on your own head. The repulsive odor is so repugnant, the commander and the guards surrounding you take an involuntary step backwards. The black cloud formation is now hovering directly over the camp, blocking the sun, causing everything to darken as a deep, disturbing hum vibrates through the camp. Suddenly screaming and yelling can be heard throughout the camp as the commander and soldiers are attacked by millions of bees as they descend upon every person and creature in the area. Soldiers try tearing off their armor as horses buck and rear, pulling out the stakes they're tethered to and galloping away unencumbered by armor or riders. In the ensuing pandemonium, you hold Alexei's hand and you slip away unnoticed. Despite the wild chaos in the camp, Alexei's piercing whistle catches the pony's attention. They gallop down the path, across the meadow and into a safe pocket around you and Alexei, created by the stench of the oil that you have now wiped onto your arms and legs. The ponies skid to a halt. You help Alexei onto his pony and then jump onto your own. No one tries to stop you as you gallop through the camp and into the woods. Finally, you reach the cliff and can see the valley below. Alexei surveys the frenzied chaos at the Roman camp and says grimly,
"Now they look like mad ants."
"Yes, they do," you agree, looking at your son proudly.
"I bet that Caesar person will think twice before sending his soldiers back here again."
"I'll bet you're right," you say, smiling broadly, ruffling your son's hair. That night, as a full moon rises above the treetops and shimmers over your pond. A tired but ecstatically happy Alexei falls comfortably asleep in your welcoming arms as you sing him a lullaby. Just moments later, a horse and rider emerge from the dappled moonlight on the forest path and into clear view. A tall, handsome, powerful-looking man dismounts and embraces you while kissing your sleeping son on his head. No words are necessary. As his second self, he had seen everything that happened that day, and from his perspective, there were thousands of invisible Vedras who communicated their desires to their bees. Though the Vedras, as their second selves, were invisible to the Romans, the bees saw them clearly, and each hive followed its master, in some cases for many, many miles, until they converged at the outskirts of the camp and created a massive cloud. Then all of the Vedras combined their thoughts with your image of the bees hovering over the camp, and the cloud moved accordingly. Though the Romans never saw them, the Vedras were prepared to show up in physical form if anything had gone wrong on the battlefield, or if you and Alexei had been taken captive. Alexei's proud father lays the sleeping boy on his chest and wraps his arm around you, kissing you tenderly as nature sings its nighttime lullabies and moonlight sparkles diamonds on the dew-tipped grass. You find yourself back in the chair, feeling torn between two worlds. You dutifully record what happened, but you feel frightened and tell the story as if it's no more than a hazy memory. On your way to dinner, you think about the fact that the Roman army had been defeated by the Vedras not once but twice, and yet these events had never been recorded. You know that your lifetime as Sasha took place in Russia during the time of the Roman Empire, but you've never read anything about the Vedras or even the Russian people that far back in history, which seems odd, given that there was historical information about every other culture. How could an entire race be wiped clean from history as if they'd never existed? And who in the world is powerful enough to rewrite history and make an entire culture vanish into thin air? At dinner, you sit quietly listening to Matthew. On one hand, you're dying to talk to him, but on the other, you feel relieved you don't have to explain anything or try to make sense of what's happening to you. When you return to the ward, you feel relieved instead of imprisoned when it's time for bed. You have been waiting all day long to just be alone with your thoughts and feelings. Even if it's confusing, at least you don't have to make sense of anything or try to put your thoughts and feelings into words. You're about to take off your cargo pants when you remember the object Admiral Birdie gave you. Inconspicuously, you touch it in your pocket, but you're afraid to look at it since you're under constant surveillance. You think of climbing under your bed, but then it would look even more suspicious if you did so a second time to talk to Matthew. So you decide to wait until he gets back from his shower, and in the meantime you flop down on top of your bed. Despite everything, you suddenly feel more relaxed than you have in days. As you take a deep breath and close your eyes, images of your life as a Vedras dominate your thoughts, and you imagine yourself floating naked in your pond, looking dreamily up at the sky, and then you're there. At first, you think you're having a lucid dream, but as you look around, you know you're somehow visiting your Russian home, and not as a remote viewer. You are feeling the delicious contrast of the cool water below and the warmth of the sun on your skin from above. And this is happening without the Montauk chair or programming or anything else. You wonder if you're teleporting, or if you have somehow managed to be two places at once. As you float in the pond, a voice drifts through your mind saying, "Imagination is everything." Before you know it, bright lights are shining in your eyes and you're waking up in your room the next morning. You have perfect clarity. It wasn't a dream. But how was it possible without the chair? Is your avatar body capable of finding your frequency and then taking you to a past game location on its own? Could avatars actually have that level of programming? And then you remember the strange message. Imagination is everything. What does that mean? You desperately need to wash your hair, among other things, so you skip breakfast and hurry into the shower room. The apology would wait, and this would give you more time to think. You carefully hang your pants inside the shower and then hang your towel on top. You consider pulling the object out of your pocket and getting a good look at it, but then it occurs to you that there could be a hidden camera. The thought is unsettling, but the shower is hot and you decide it's too late to worry about whether or not someone is watching your naked body. Even though you skipped breakfast, you still have to hurry to meet Matthew and Trevor on time. Matthew shoots you a questioning look and you whisper in his ear, "I'll tell you later," as you start walking down the hall with Trevor. When you arrive at Thomas's office, Trevor knocks on the door. "Enter," a voice booms. "Wait here," she says, as she opens the door, steps inside and closes the door quietly.